And welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on this Thursday, August 29th. I am the host for today's program, Paul Demain, and many of the stories read here can also be found in our publication, News from Indian Country, or online at IndianCountryNews.com. And here are some of the news stories for the day. The Menominee Tribe of Wisconsin is offering to make the Forest County Potawatomi community a partner in its proposed off-reservation casino in Kenosha, Wisconsin, a project the Potawatomi have vigorously opposed as detrimental to its Milwaukee casino operation. According to a letter sent from Menominee Tribal Chairman to the Potawatomi Tribal Chairman Gus Frank on August 26, the Menominee are offering to make the Potawatomi the developer and manager of the proposed $800 million casino on the site of the former Dairyland Greyhound Park in Kenosha. The Menominee are also offering the Forest County Potawatomi the chance to lease gaming machines to the Kenosha Casino and the ability to obtain development rights for a portion of the site, giving the Potawatomi the ability to build complementary facilities at the site. The Menominee's application for an off-reservation casino received federal approval late last week, sending the plan to Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker for final approval. Walker previously said he would only approve the casino if it resulted in no new net gaming and if it received consensus support from Wisconsin's 11 tribes, of which there is no consensus. Members of the Wisconsin Chippewa Federation met on the Lac Courte Oreilles Ojibwe Reservation near Hayward, Wisconsin on August 28th to discuss issues that impact their tribal communities, including taxation, cross-reciprocity in dealing with banishment, treaty rights, and the relationship with state and federal agencies. The one-day summit was the third for the Federation, which hopes to codify tribal laws in a standard procedure, which will allow for Chippewa tribal members to exercise their retained rights collectively on and around each reservation in Wisconsin, including cross-recognition of tax exemptions from state taxes and collections. Other topics included federal issues with the EPA, Army Corps of Engineers, and mining. A college student from the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation got a chance to speak at the Let Freedom Ring ceremony commemorating the 50th anniversary of the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. The Bismarck Tribune reports that 23-year-old University of Mary senior Elena Eagleshield spoke for a few minutes in front of the Lincoln Memorial August 28th about the importance of her culture and language. The March on Washington, D.C. was organized by civil rights leaders and credited with spurring the passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his I Have a Dream speech during the event. A mentor of Martin Luther King's, Perry Ray Robinson Jr., who participated in marches on Washington, D.C., and many other events alongside Martin Luther King, was killed by members of the American Indian Movement in 1973 during a 71-day standoff with the U.S. government, in part because AIM leaders believed he may have been an FBI informant. The remains of his body remain buried at Wounded Knee Creek on the Pine Ridge Reservation, where AIM leader Dennis Banks, according to grand jury evidence, had AIM member Chris Westerman bury him. Eagleshield said she doesn't know why the organizers of the commemoration invited her to speak at the event, but she said she felt blessed. The U.S. Department of Justice has agreed to notify Yakama Nation police before executing warrants against tribal members on tribal land. The agreement stems from a February 16, 2011 federal raid on King Mountain Tobacco, which is owned and operated by a Yakama tribal member in White Swan. Federal authorities took computers and documents from the business without informing tribal leaders and blocked tribal police from entering the property during the raid. The tribe sued the Justice Department a month later for allowing the FBI to execute the raid without notifying tribal authorities. Quote, it's historical from the standpoint that there is not another agreement like this with any other tribe and the U.S. Department of Justice, unquote, Tribal Council Chairman Harry Smiskin told the Yakama Herald-Republic about the agreement. The lawsuit also named sheriff's offices in Yakama and Benton counties in Washington state and government agencies in Virginia and Mississippi for also participating in the raid. Colorado's new State History Museum has closed an exhibit on the Sand Creek Indian Massacre, one of the state's darkest chapters, after descendants of the slaughter's survivors demanded changes in how it is portrayed and complained that they weren't consulted about the display. The U.S. Army force, led by Colonel John M. Shivington, swept into a sleeping Indian village along Sand Creek in southeastern Colorado on November 29, 1864. Troops killed more than 160 Cheyenne and Arapaho, most of them women, children, and the elderly. Officials at the time insisted the attack was to avenge Native American raids on white settlers and kidnappings of women and children. Dale Hamilton, a descendant of Chief Sandhill, one of the survivors, said curators at the History Colorado Center Museum in Denver didn't consult with tribes about the display, which opened in April of 2012. The exhibit was closed earlier this summer. Sealaska Heritage Institute has selected Alaska Native brothers to carve 2 totem poles for buildings in Indian Village in Juneau. Officials say Joe and T.J. Young are set to begin work on one of the poles this week. Work is scheduled to begin on the second pole next year. Officials say the totems will replace original poles that have deteriorated and become safety issues. The brothers will also create a replacement house screen, or the painted decorated panel that sits between the 2 totem poles. The work is funded by artisan grants. And that's going to be another roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. We want to say miigwech for joining with us and come back again soon.